Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flizanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to take back your power with Dr. Christian Northrup. Very excited to have her back again so soon. She is doing a free video series called Take Back Your Power, A Woman's Roadmap to Optimal Health and Wellness, which is between June 17th and 22nd, 2020. That's the only time this free video series will be available, so make sure today is June 16th to mark your calendars for tomorrow to get on drnorthrup.com, 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 and sign up for this free video series. We're going to talk about what you're going to learn in that video series today in our interview. I do want to apologize in advance because I was so excited to have her back. I was also excited to use a new platform for my video, so we have this on video, and I also have a new backdrop. So a lot of things were very exciting to me, and there are times where I'm talking pretty fast. I mean, you know I talk fast anyway, but I was talking a little faster than normal, so I apologize. I just wanted to keep the conversation going. I get so excited, so forgive me. If you want to check out the video, come on over to jjflizanes.tv and you'll see all the most recent interviews with Gay Hendricks, with Christian Northrup, with Dr. Eben Alexander, with Anita Moorjani. You can see any of them at jjflizanes.tv. And if you want to keep this conversation going between us and ask me any questions on an ongoing basis, I invite you to join the Inner Circle. You can find the link in the show notes. It's jjflizanes.com/inner circle. It's $9.99 a month with a 7-day free trial. We do monthly group coaching calls. We do fasting mimicking diets every couple of months. We do manifestation challenges, just us, and we connect on a regular basis and continue these great conversations. So if you're interested, check your show notes, jjflizanes.com/inner circle. And again, make sure that you mark your calendar if you're interested in Dr. Northrup's free video series called Take Back Your Power, A Woman's Roadmap to Optimal Health and Wellness. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I have the pleasure again. I got her back. I got her after 10 years. Now I got her again. Dr. Christian Northrup. Last time we talked about the Great Awakening, and it was also centered around her book launch of Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, which for those of you that didn't see it yet, this encyclopedia of your health now and forever. Amen. Amen. If you want to know what to get any woman in your life ever who cares about their health, like seriously, like they'll never have to get another book again for their bodies. And I know plenty of women who would like an encyclopedia, like literally you wrote an encyclopedia.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. It was a new language for women's health. And I think that's what we're about now is how can you use your innate power, especially at this time in history, to not be so afraid, not be so exhausted, not be so adrenal fatigue, all the stuff that people are getting. We know that I just heard this from Del Bigtree the other day. I think the suicide rate is 4 times normal right now. The number of prescriptions for anti-anxiety medication, sleep medication has gone up like 40%, something of that nature. So clearly, people are freaked out, and the only way, a permanent fix is not an anti-anxiety medication. A permanent fix is tapping into your innate inner wisdom, your divine sovereignty. That's the permanent fix when you really get that, and you're not just constantly, it's like you're constantly being whipped around by whatever the media wants to tell you. I mean, I just saw this thing now. Oh, good. Now the World Health Organization is telling you everyone should wear a mask. But basically a month ago, they said you didn't have to wear a mask. Literally 2 weeks ago, you needed social distancing and a mask. But now it's okay if you go and protest and don't wear a mask and are like this. That's okay now. I mean, it's like if you pay attention to, if you're waiting for an authority, a parental figure from the government or your doctor to come down and tell you what you need to do, it's okay to listen to that, but then you must run it by this vessel, which is a barometer of truth. You must. And your truth may be different from my truth, and that's okay. So biologic individuality.
What I have forgotten, because I've been finding my own voice over time with what to say, with discerning who's ready to hear what, not wasting my breath, not being a rescuer, healed that part, right? It's like being able to discern who's wanting it and who's ready for it. And
Right.
while I have a ton of information I could have been sharing during this time, I've chosen, like we talked about in the last interview, stay a little quiet until I'm really like pushed forward with momentum in my own intuition about this is a time to speak up, like I did a couple weeks ago with a very daring show I did on racism and law of attraction. And it wasn't me saying, I know the answer. It was me saying, here's how I'm going to come at it. I'm not going to get it right. I'm going to do the best I can, but
That's
I can't
good.
stay silent any longer. And one of the things that I love about you, and you know, I've been in personal training for over 20 years, and I've been in functional medicine for over 15 years. And, you know, what those of us in the wellness and health space know the corruption, know what goes on, know that all doctors aren't the same, know that doctors are wrong a lot of the time.
Right.
And I'm not right, but for me to be able to say that seems disrespectful, seems like I have an ego bigger than I need to, that I have no, you know, someone who isn't in the space, who doesn't see what happens with pharmaceutical companies says, who do you think you are to say that doctors don't? And so this whole debate, and it's not me saying all doctors are one way or the other way. It's just saying that they are not ultimately the deciders of your health and the best gauges of what's right for you, as you've been saying. And so I know you've done, from your book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, you've done a 5-part free video course about taking your power back. So first, I just want you to address what I just said in terms of that whole physician, doctors know everything, or you're a jerk if you think that you're discrediting doctors and their knowledge.
I know. Okay. So first of all, let's just say that we're taking on conventional medicine. And I want to give you my experience with my own community in Maine at a conventional medical practice. Let's say that you've got 10 of us, and we're all going to talk about what's the best way to do menopause treatment with hormones. 10 different board certified OBGYNs, you will get 10 different opinions. We're not even talking about diet, exercise, nutrients, supplements, meditation, breathing. We're not talking about any of that. We're just talking about what's the first line of treatment for hot flashes or for irregular bleeding or whatever. And what I was aware of when I was in practice was the enormous variation amongst just the regular routine docs in a hospital. Plus, there's another dirty little secret of medicine. I think it parallels apparently the dirty little secret of policemen, and that is there's bad actors, but we protect them. You know, I mean, I had plenty of people that I thought were bad actors. One in particular, and I remember it was the early 80s, way back then, and I told my mother what was going on in the office. And she goes, well, why don't you report him? And I said, because he's president of the American what is it? ACOG, American College of OBGYN, the district in which I practice. He's president of that. He runs all the meetings. How far do you think I would get as a new female with no other females in the practice, doctor, fresh out of residency in that group when he has that much power in my particular profession in my state? How far do you think I would get? Now, years later, they caught up with him and he lost his license. But how many women had to suffer until that happened? And I was a resident at St. Margaret's Hospital for Women in Boston, which is no longer. And they were doing Halsted radical mastectomies for breast cancer. So you'd come in with a little lump. They didn't biopsy it. You just went to the operating room. They did a frozen section. If it was cancer, you would come out of the operating room with all your pectoral muscles gone on whatever side it was, all the lymph nodes gone in your armpit. You literally would have a caved in chest, no breast, no muscles, no lymph, all on. And I knew that's what was happening. And I knew that there was incoming research showing that a lumpectomy would have done the job. But these guys were behind the times. And what I wanted to do at night when I do the workup before going, home, I wanted to whisper in the women's ears, run, get out of here. But guess what? They worshiped their doctors. They thought their doctors were doing the absolute right thing. We also had in that practice a guy who wrote the marriage manual for Catholics way back then. And he had a ring that the Pope had kissed. I kid you not. He did not have to take that ring off when he scrubbed for surgery. Now, we all know that a ring, you take off your ring because bacteria and stuff can be sequestered. That's standard sterile technique. He didn't have to do it because the Pope had kissed him. I'm in a hospital, and this is what's going on. I mean, so all that to say, there is no uniformity necessarily among different doctors, although there's more now, because in what I'm seeing now with the younger doctors, they're trained on protocols. They just check off a box. They don't look at you. They just check the box off on the iPad. It's nuts. And so now let's go to not standard medicine, which should be standard. And that's things like vitamin D levels, vitamin C, zinc, these sorts of things, hydroxychloroquine. Let's say it, woo, hydroxychloroquine. When did that become political? That's a drug that's been around for 70 years. It does stuff with zinc. It's incredibly effective against many things. And the Lancet just retracted. Okay, so they tried so hard to bring down that medication. Like, it was so dangerous. They literally published this article in the Lancet, which then gets retracted because they find out that they had some scam artist as one of the authors. That's how hard whoever was behind that was pushing to make sure that people wouldn't know about these more natural, very cheap, generic treatments. You and I both know, because we've been in it a while. I mean, people say to me, I even had people write to my publisher and say, has her account gotten hacked? I mean, what's happened to her? It's like, no, I've always been this way, but the noose of my profession is no longer around my neck, so I can tell you what's really going on. Anything that's natural. When I posted something on Facebook a while ago about vitamin D, was removed, didn't meet World Health Organization guidelines. Hello, do you know, I mean, let's go to grassroots.net. These are the top vitamin D researchers in the entire world, have their research on grassrootshealth.net. Why do they exist? Because a woman went to all the meetings, saw how robust the research was, and I'm forgetting her name, and I'm sorry about that, but go to grassrootshealth.net. And she said, all right, we know that the average time it takes for a treatment that's helpful to get into the medical literature to be used is 17 years, even now. Like, I was recommending to my pregnant women way back in the early 80s to take folic acid to prevent neural tube defects. Okay, now we know that for 60%, 40% of the people, it needs to be methylated folate. Fine. But anyway, this would decrease neural tube defects. I was giving it to my pregnant patients. My colleagues were saying, how do you know that that's safe? It's like a vitamin. I know it's safe. I'm not giving it in huge amounts. And there's preliminary studies that show that it's promising. It cannot do any harm. Why would I withhold it knowing that it could prevent neural tube defects? 10, 12, 15 years later, it's standard in the OBGYN literature. Same with omega-3 fats, particularly DHA. That was not included in baby formula. It's all in breast milk. So when someone couldn't nurse, I would have them take DHA and put it in the baby formula because it wires in immunity, the function of the heart, the eyes, all of that stuff. Now, that took 10, 15, 20 years to get into the medical literature. And I've seen this over and over and over. Iodine, just a little bit of iodine to prevent breast problems, thyroid problems. We had the goiter belt way back in I think it was in the 40s, 50s. People in the goiter belt, the Great Lakes, who didn't get any iodine in their diet, developed goiters. So they started to iodinize the salt. Now people don't use table salt, and sea salt doesn't contain that much iodine. So you just need to know about these things. There's a huge body of literature on this, and also magnesium, and it all gets disappeared. Why? We can go back to the Flexner report of John D. Rockefeller in the 1920s, and he began to include pharmaceutical, petroleum-based drugs as the standard. They came up with the word quack, and quack was used for everybody who did herbs, who did naturopathic. They closed the naturopathic and homeopathic medical schools. And slowly but surely, drug medicine, okay, here's a symptom. Let's squelch it with a drug, which is just like putting duct tape over the indicator lights on the dashboard of your car. I mean, you just like giving women birth control pills to regulate your period. If something's wrong with your period, something's wrong with the hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis, which is very sensitive to light, to your thoughts, to mood, to the phases of the moon. Oh no, let's just put you on birth control pills. And then you won't even know that this is going on. And that's standard medicine. Do you have a pill for that? And everyone's been brainwashed into that. And we have to take back our power. Yes. Is it harder? Yes, it's harder than going to the doctor. Can you give me a prescription? Which is why the average 65-year-old is now on 6 prescription medications. Prescription meds for seniors, like, it's just a matter of time before you're all going to need prescription drugs. Really? My mother's 94. She's not on any. So it's a mindset. It's a system. And you and I both know that anything natural and cheap related to the earth has been systematically undermined for at least the last 100 years. And now time's up.
I was thinking about when the first time was. I became a personal trainer in 1996. And I was in the gym in 1994 learning and studying. And I thought, when was the first time I actually questioned a doctor in a different way? And I remember I was in New York City as a personal trainer, newly to everything, don't know a fraction of what I know now. And I'd gone in. Oh my gosh. But it was something orthopedic. I don't remember what it was. Maybe I strained something. I know that I didn't break anything. And I went to the doctor and I asked him I forget what I asked him to do. And I said, I don't think I need any x-rays unless you can do an MRI, because I knew I didn't break anything. It was soft tissue. It was ligament. It was tendon. And of course, they made me go through for x-rays that I knew I didn't need. So $500 later, and I'm like 18 or something. And I'm like, I didn't. And they're like, oh, we don't see anything. I'm like, I told you weren't going to see anything. Like, that's what I said when I got here.
Yeah.
And then I think I said, would you ever be willing, here's how my brain works. Would you ever be willing to, could I get a whole body MRI? Because back then I was learning about bulging discs. And he was like, why? And I said, well, I just want to see if I have any bulging discs. And he said to me, are you going to change your behavior if you do? And I, at the time, didn't know what to say. And the answer would have been yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if I saw something coming. Again, I was like 18 or 19 or 20. If I saw something coming, yes, I would change my behavior. But the average person wasn't going to. So I didn't have the knowledge or the confidence at the time to say anything back. But I remember thinking, this is weird. And then when they brought a new program into the gym for women, oh God, it was breast cancer training. So it was a doctor, a woman who had breast cancer, and her personal trainer, who all went into this blind and wanted to figure out what to do. And again, this is me uncovering that because you're a doctor doesn't mean you know more. Because let me tell you, when they started telling me how they were going to take the rectus abdominis and curl it up into breast tissue, or sever the lats, right? The lats, the biggest muscle in your upper body. And I'm sitting there just on logic only thinking, do you know what your lats do? Yeah. And you want to take it and sever it from your spine and roll it up as breast tissue. I was like, it kind of is there for a reason, not necessarily to make anyway. So those kinds of things just started to chip away at my trust in just blindly saying, well, what you must know better. You must know more than me. You must get something that I don't get. And how come I can't answer these questions? You can't answer these questions that I have that keep coming up for me. And so again, it's not to disrespect a good meaning person who's a doctor who's got information, but it's to give your power back. And that's what today is about, wanting to take, for those of you that know there's something wrong, there's something not right. You don't want to feel like you're giving up your rights. You're giving up like you are an uneducated person when it comes to your body. You don't want to be in denial anymore of what messages you're getting that you're not paying attention to, because you just logically tell yourself, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not smart enough. I don't know about my body. And I believe that's what your course is about, right?
That's exactly what it's about. So when people say, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, and I've said for years, wait a minute. It's a partnership. I have a body of knowledge. you have knowledge of your body. The marriage is made when the two come together. So what I say to people is when you go to a doctor, you need to feel in your body, is this a healer? Because you can be a healer as an orthopedic surgeon, you can be a healer as an internist. I mean, there's some really good people. And there's some people who just sort of go by the books. And if they don't know, they won't tell you that they don't know. There's something kind of wonderful about a doctor saying, I don't know, but let's see if we can investigate this together. Because if a doctor says, I don't know, what does that do? It should wake up your own inner wisdom or your own divine connection. Okay, because then you will pull back your power. Because until we pull back the projection that this is going to heal me. So I was doing an intuitive training class with Julie Ryan, who's a medical intuitive. And one of the guys in our course asked us, and we were all kind of practicing our intuitive skills. And so we were asked, his father was on chemotherapy, and he wanted to know, was the chemo helping the father? All right, was it helping? And here's what I asked him. Does your father believe in his doctor and his treatment? And the guy goes, my father thinks his doctor walks on water. Now, Julie, the medical intuitive at the time, and many of the rest of us knew the chemo is killing your father. Guess who's going to win there? The father whose power has been forwarded to the chemo and the doctor, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the person who gets to decide is the person. No one can override what our beliefs are. So it's interesting that, you and I discussed this, that you're trying to figure out what are people ready to hear? Because if their beliefs are a certain way, like right now, what are the beliefs? Okay, that if you wear a mask and gloves and if you stay home, then you'll be safe until they give you a vaccine. And then you'll be able to go back out into the world. That's the mainstream narrative. Now, that narrative has so many holes in it that it would be like holding a bucket with 6 holes in it. And that's coming from a lot of mainstream doctors. But if you look at the belief system of the mainstream because of the narrative, then that's what they absolutely believe. And there's no way. I was talking this morning with my Pilates teacher and about people who are afraid to come in. And I said, so if you give them the information on exercising with masks on, which is really dangerous and can cause hypoxia and it's not good. She said, it doesn't matter. I can tell from looking at them. You give them data that contradicts with what they already believe, and they just go into a trance. It just goes, nope, that didn't happen. Let me give you one of the trance things that amazes me, and that is with absolutely no data whatsoever. My profession is now injecting pregnant women with a DPT and with a flu shot. That's standard now. Well, I've got to go in for my shots. You're pregnant. Those vaccines contain neurotoxins that go over the blood-brain barrier, and you're worried about eating tuna? I mean, you sit there with your little chart about how much fish you can eat, and then they tell you, let's just inject you with aluminum, polysorbate 80, fetal DNA when you've got a baby growing inside you, and everyone thinks that's a good idea with no data whatsoever. See, that's the kind of blindness. And you and I know we could drive ourselves insane if we believed that it was our job to save everybody from this nonsense. You can't save them. My dad was a holistic dentist, and he would say, and he didn't call himself holistic. We didn't have the word then. He said, sometimes you just have to leave them where Jesus flang them. It's just, that's how it is.
So that's a great point. And again, it's one we've wrestled with, both you and I together and separately, with what can you say, and being okay with those that aren't ready to hear it and disagree. And I'm okay. If you disagree, you have to do what's right for you. You know, basic law of attraction says you're going to manifest whatever you think is right anyway. And if it kills you and you don't know any better, it doesn't matter, because you didn't believe it anyway. So you were never going to try it. So I want to talk about who. We know that the book, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, is for every woman that cares to have an encyclopedia about her health from a holistic point of view that takes into consideration all sides: Western, functional, emotional, spiritual, the whole thing. Who is the Taking Your Power Back video series for? I want to make sure, because it isn't for the people who say, no, my doctor knows everything. And yes, the government is on my side. And yes, our healthcare system is about my health. And yes, the pharmaceutical companies care about my long-term health. Those people are not right for you nor I. So let's hone in on maybe the ones that know they are. We know that. Let's go with the middle ones who are kind of trying to figure it out.
I would say it's for those who are peeking up over the hole, as it were, and saying, maybe there's something else that I could be doing. It's for a woman who might have been to 6 different practitioners already and couldn't find anything, or she goes in and is told everything's normal. It's all in your head. With the current, in my opinion, the current breakdown of all of our systems. Public education is another one. With the breakdown of the medical system, I was listening yesterday to a journalist talking about 600 doctors signed a letter, wrote to the president to ask him, please open up the whole country, because the number of suicides is, 4 times what it should be. And, there's so many healthcare problems coming from loneliness, isolation. I have a friend who works in a nursing home. No one can visit these people. They are crying every day. They have been totally abandoned. We are now, as a society that is supposed to be compassionate, we are allowing our elderly to die alone. This is not acceptable. We're allowing our young mothers to labor and birth alone, all in the name of saving lives. Are you kidding me? We need community. Community equals immunity. So the course is for anyone who's questioning these mainstream ideas that somehow remaining isolated, that somehow covering your face with a mask all the time, that somehow walking on the beach is dangerous, and that you can't ever sit down, and that you must wear a mask. It's for anyone who is starting to believe that there must be another way. Now, remember, I've been at this for 40 years, and I've always thought that women needed to bring their own authority, their sovereignty, back to their own body. So let's say maybe you want to get off birth control pills. Maybe you're trying to get pregnant. Maybe you just want to know how to make a decision. Should I have this operation? Should I not have this operation? Should I keep my uterus? Should I not keep my uterus? And here's the thing. Every single thing, every drug, every surgery, every CAT scan, every MRI has its place. Every one of them. This is not about throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It is, how do you negotiate the system? Because every hospital I've ever been in has so many angels working there. I mean, unbelievable people, wonderful people. And so how do you get that system to work for you instead of to give you things that you don't want or to coerce you? Now, this is when I find I want to teach people how to know when they're being coerced, or when you're being talked down to, or when you're made to feel stupid. Man.
Or when your person is less trusting of alternative things. Remember last time I told you with the whole fibroid thing with me and not getting a hysterectomy? And
yes.
I went to the gynecologist and she said, you make me nervous, after she explained to it. And very calmly, I said to her, isn't it even more of a possibility that this could go smoothly and that it deteriorates at its own rate and that everything works out perfectly? And she said, Yeah. I said, well, that's what's going to happen. And that is, so I literally am like calming my own gynecologist down, who's nervous because she has a lack of faith. Now, things went well. Things were great. In fact, I'm still I'm great. I haven't had an MRI recently, but I did keto last week and I'm continuing to release like chunks. Like I'm really like, and it's just kind of funny because I feel it's like haha. And so when I went back in the next time, she looked at me like, what do you want? I'll do whatever you want. She said, because she's like, you just keep doing what you're doing because you're trusting your body. And she's young and I had to move her from, she's the physician. And now she's nervous because she's used to telling me or everybody else what to do that has the highest rate of success with no complications. And here I am wanting to take a little risk that if it goes awry, there's going to be something wrong with me. I'm not having any fear, but she has to make sure she's doing her job. So she has to let me know that she has fear for me. And I just didn't take it. And I said, well, couldn't this happen too? And she's like, well, yeah. I said, well, that's what's going to happen. And so then, if you are feeling trust, and I think that's what your course is also going to help people connect into, it's to not doubt yourself when you're not coming from a place of fear, because when you're in fear, you're out of alignment and you are not making intuitive decisions. When you are in alignment, when you know who you are, when you feel good, when you feel this hit, that is where you make the place of decisions from and not let somebody else's words take you off center. And I'm guessing that you're doing that through a lot of the work that you're doing with the course.
Absolutely. That's what it's for. It is literally for people to remember, oh, wait a minute. I know this. And that's what they'll find. It's almost like, if you get a good astrologic reading, it never tells you anything that you don't on some level intuitively know, but you've never articulated it. And so the course is from the perspective of a board certified OBGYN who went to Ivy League education. And I'm saying, okay, take back your power. This is what you need to know about your body. And so your situation with the fibroid is such a perfect example because you go in there and your faith brings her along with you and she can bring in her skill set and then you have a partner in your health. But if you have someone who refuses to be a partner, you got to find someone else. Now, I also know it is increasingly hard to find someone else. Because your insurance doesn't pay for it or they're not in your network or it's become harder and harder and harder. And in a way, this is not a bad thing because increasingly there's no way out except in here. There's no way out. No one's coming to rescue you anymore. And that's when you find out how much power you really have.
Well, the physician that did my procedure for the uterine artery embolization, I didn't love her and I didn't feel like she was on my side. But she was good at what she did. And so, my partner, he and I were talking about this whole, pandemic situation and masks. And I had to remind him because he thinks it's crazy too with how much people are exercising with masks or have this fear. And I had to remind him, I said, when you sat in that chair with me and she told me that she was recommending a hysterectomy, you got nervous. Yeah. I said, I didn't get nervous. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew it wasn't an option, but you went down the path of, because you don't know any better. And I understand that. And that's what's happening is people don't have any other information. They haven't studied anything. They don't know about the body. They don't know about the systems. The reason why I'm not wearing a mask is because I understand how your immune system works. Okay. And for those of you that have no idea how your immune system works, from the beginning, it's been intuitive. Have I explained it? No, because I'm like, you're not going to listen anyway, because you're not asking the questions. Well, is this good for me? And the people that want to cling to the, it's amazing how many people believe in their politics and in science that's not true, who have no information, but they'll shame everybody else and say, you should be wearing a mask. You don't care about my health. So you should check science. I'm thinking, I know science. I've been dealing with science for 25 years. When did you get into the game? Yesterday when you read the newspaper or you listened to the news that scared you into submission? Like, this is not about whether, what people are saying, because at the end of the day, that the whole conversation, like epigenetics and quantum physics, these two things, probably the biggest deal ever that no one's talking about, really decide, like you're talking about, they're where we come from to decide what's right for us individually. And no matter what information is going on, it doesn't matter. You only know from you how you're going to absorb this information, if you're in alignment with information, if you're being pulled in one direction or not, to follow or listen to somebody or to come together. But I made the decision to work with that doctor because A, she would do it. B, she was really good at it. Her ego was so high that I knew she was going to do it right because she had to protect her reputation. She did not like me at all, which I was okay with. And because I just wanted the job to get done, we fought till the very end.
So that's funny. That's funny.
But it got done. I appreciate the work she did. I would refer everyone to her for the procedure and tell them just to not listen to anything else. So, and that's a combination of, just because I didn't like her didn't mean I threw it out. She's very good at what she does. She is amazing. We went through my wrist. There was very little. It was a 2.5 hour procedure. She got all of it. And, minus everything else, it was, and I was full. My uterus was huge. So she did a very good job, but I managed all the before, during, and after of my care, not even listening to the recommendation of staying in the hospital, because I'm like, if this is pain, you don't know the kind of pain I endured. I'm not staying in the hospital for you to manage my pain when I can do that at home. And everything worked out beautifully, wonderfully. It's all great. But I love that you're taking the stance of wanting to empower people to take their power back, and that you've created this free video series for people. Is it for women and men, or just women?
It's basically for women, but I'll tell you what I hear from men and what I've heard for years. They'll say, wait a minute. There's a lot for me in there, because if you look at it, the healthcare system has been very patriarchal. It's been very masculine, and it has therefore damaged as many men as women, because their feeling side, their feminine nature, is just as raped by the system as women's. In fact, one of the things that happened to me over my career of seeing patients is the number of men, and I kid you not, who would come into my office with their wives or girlfriends and drop their drawers and ask me to check them out, because if they went to their male doctor, they didn't feel comfortable because of the man code, where they've got to man up and they can't be vulnerable, but they could be vulnerable with a woman and really ask what was going on. And so I am very aware of how sensitive many men are, how incredibly sensitive, in many ways more sensitive than women. As a matter of fact, in one of my practices, we had to call the rescue for way more men over a 10-year period than we ever did for women. I mean, they'd faint when the girlfriend was getting a procedure or whatever. They're very sensitive, that inner core of a man. Again, though, they've got to get through that intellect, and they don't, most of them, unless they're left-handed, do not have the corpus callosum going to both sides of the brain that most women do. Now, not all women do either. I even explain that in the course, and it's mostly a way to access inner guidance. And I believe that right now, because of the lockdown, because of the complete change in so many things, we're at a perfect place to learn something, to have other information coming in. As a matter of fact, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, way back, who wrote On Death and Dying, and was told no one's dying in our hospital, because we were all, no one even admitted that there was death. But she noticed that children who were sick, like children with leukemia, terminal illness kids, would turn into little Buddhas. They became so wise. And she said, when the physical quadrant is shut down, the spiritual quadrant just opens up. And I believe that that's what's happening to so many of us, where we are in, and we're locked down, and we're told we can't, shake others' hands, or we can't hug them, and we can't, look at their whole face. What happens as a result, because we're herd creatures, we actually are reaching out with our non-physical selves, and we're creating much more aligned communities. Like, one of the things that's happening during this whole thing is you suddenly realize, wait a minute, I thought that person was my friend. Why are they attacking me on social media out of their fear? And why are, so within families, I just talked to a woman this morning. She said, my mother is waking up. She's 82. We can talk. But my brothers, they think that we're crazy. This is very common, very common. So it's almost like all of those people, like you and I, who've been way ahead of this curve for years and have been called the black sheep and, all the rest of it. We're kind of leading the new thing that's coming, which is people who are awake and want healthcare that is in alignment with the wisdom of the body, in alignment with the healing of the earth, in alignment with natural light, with clean water, with less noise. I mean, it's really very exciting what's happening because there's nowhere to go now except to develop this awake inner wisdom. And that's what the whole course is about. And I think now more people will be ready for this approach, because where else are you going to go? Where else are you going to go? I mean, I've had some friends finally now getting elective surgeries, you know, some knee replacement, back surgery. One of my friends had her eyes done by a plastic surgeon. So people are they're going back a bit, but I don't think we're ever going back to the way it was. And that's a very good thing, because people are questioning.
I hope so. And I know that this free course isn't going to be around forever. And the dates of the free course are June 17th to the 22nd. Now, is that just when they can sign up? So if I come in and I sign up on the 22nd, do I still get access to the course?
Yes.
Okay. So on the 23rd, it's no more.
That's right.
June 17th to June 22nd, 2020, you're going to go to drnorthrup.com to get the free course. Okay. Yep. And in the course, besides obviously giving your power back, what other things can people expect to get out of the free course?
You're going to learn about breast care, you know, and how not to be afraid of breast cancer. That's a biggie. You're going to learn what your uterus really is, what it means, whether it's there or not. You're going to learn about the female energetic system. You're going to learn about the connection of our creativity with the cycles of the moon. You're going to learn how to access your own inner wisdom. There'll be some, you know, really concrete things that you can do, because it's interesting that we're never taught, and we should be, because little kids have this. Your sixth sense should be your first sense. We all have it, but we've been talked out of it for so long. So anyway, that's what it's this kind of thing, sort of an owner's manual for accessing your women's wisdom. And this has taken me, you know, only 40 years to put together. No, but I think people sort of need this now more than ever. And in fact, I look at it, I don't even have a conventional doctor. You know, when people say, well, you know, who's your PCP, your primary care? I don't have one. I don't like what they're selling. Now, I should probably find a functional medicine person, but, you know, I just don't, I just haven't done it, because I don't need to go. So because I know this stuff. More than that, though, I also know, I have every faith that if something happened to me, I would, by the law of attraction, attract the care that I need. I absolutely know that. I'm not afraid of the hospital. I'm not afraid of the emergency room. I'm not afraid of any of it. I trained in that for years and years and years, and I love my colleagues. But I also know, you know, when they're just following the protocol and they're just checking the box. And I also know, you know, what, the last time that I had a physical, maybe 5 years ago, what is all they wanted to know? Weight, blood pressure, and had I had my adult vaccines? It's like, are you kidding me? How about no? How about I'm never going to get a Pneumovax? I'm never getting a shingle shot. I'm never getting a flu shot. How about no? I know all about those things. See, that's the current idea of prevention. I did ask them to draw my vitamin D level to make sure that it was optimal, right? So, you know,
something that I have to fight with my clients' doctors on. And I don't, because I say, here's the list of hormones to go get tested. Comprehensive panel, the 3 thyroid, maybe even 4 thyroid hormones, your 3 sex hormones, your adrenaline hormones, your DHEA and your cortisol, your looking at your vitamin D, your B12, your C-reactive protein, the A1C. Like I have the iron, the ferritin. Like I have the list. It's in my book. I wrote a book called The Invisible Fitness Formula: 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame. And the 5 steps in the book, right, has to do with, you have to take a look at the hormones, but we need everything to take a look at. And most people aren't testing. Traditional doctors aren't testing all the thyroid hormones. And then by the time you actually find out you have a thyroid problem, it's been years, because the TSH moves so slowly.
That is like correct. That's
and
right.
Just like you, I don't have a GP either. So when I went for this whole fibroid thing, I went straight to her. And so she's like, well, hold on, who's your gynecologist? Well, I don't have one. So then I had to go get the gynecologist. And she's like, well, you don't have a GP. I'm like, I don't need one. And she's like, working in a functional medicine clinic with a doctor and a nutritionist. I don't need, and I didn't say I didn't need one to her. I just said, I'd prefer to work with them. And she's like, well, I really think you should get one. And I was like, for what reason? Well, because they can help you with this, this, and that. I'm like, there is no one that's going to know more than Jeannie Peters and Nourishing Wellness on iron and nutrition for me. Nobody is going to know more than she does. It's a GP, please. But just, so it's funny to hear you say that, because I don't have one either. And that's how this whole thing started, because I've been pretty much self-soothing until I can't. I heal what I have until I can't. And one more quick story I have to tell, because I'm sure you know this, and it's another great example of when we allow fear, when we allow so many people's opinions to sway what we inherently know. Yeah. You know, after Breakthrough, Suzanne Somers wrote Breakthrough, and then the next book came out was Knockout. And Knockout was about cancer. And the reason was because between Breakthrough and Knockout, because it came out really fast, and I was thinking, because the doctors that I work with are listed in Breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And so I have that book. And so I'm reading the book, and then this new book comes out, and I think, well, why so quickly? And then I read the beginning, and she got hospitalized. She couldn't breathe, and she had stuff in her lungs. And so they took her to the hospital. They did a scan, and they said, you have lung cancer. And she's like, that's impossible. I get tested all the time. I have all my blood. I know what all my numbers are. And 3 different doctors told her she had cancer that had spread throughout her entire body. And they wanted to put her on all this medication that would kill her, shut down her adrenals. Her daughter finally dug up enough. She lives in Palm Springs. They were spores from planting in the garden that when she breathed them in, showed up on the scan like lung cancer.
Oh my God.
But that's why she wrote Knockout, because she's like, even I, going in with, after writing all that I've done, was afraid for my own life when 3 different doctors told me I had cancer, that I was starting to believe them.
Yes. It's potent, isn't it? It's so potent. And you're right. She of all people, because she has been obviously the face of wellness for a very long time, and proactive wellness.
And I love that you're putting this, it's coming from a doctor. She's not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. So there's only so many people that are going to listen to us and say, well, I like you, and I kind of trust you, and I'll listen to what you have to say, but you're not a doctor.
I know. I know. But what you know, they don't teach in medical school anyway. So let me be very clear on that.
Thanks. Yeah. Intuition and trusting it. But I do have always taken it with information. This is what science says. And here's what just feels right or wrong. Like, I was a personal trainer for 25 years. When I looked at passive stretching as a dancer, and I thought, this can't be right. I couldn't explain it until I became a trainer. And then even, 10 years after that, could I actually explain the physiology around why passive stretching is dangerous? But most people want to tell you, no, you should be stretching. You should be stretching. And I'm like, something is wrong there. When you're forcing right. But now I can explain it. But back then, for so long, I didn't have the information to make sense of why my body kept saying, no, this isn't right. This isn't healthy. This isn't good for you. I don't know why. I just know it is. And then when I got the information, it made me go, oh, I can trust this in myself, because now I know that I'm right, because I have the science to back it up. So will you be teaching in your course sciences also to help them? Any kind of sciences besides just intuition?
Oh, yes.
Great.
Because the truth is, if you live long enough, the stuff that to me was an intuition in the 1980s is now proven by studies. And so that's one of the beauties of, friends like Bruce Lipton, who taught at medical school, and all the stuff that he was seeing back then, we now have data for. I was friends with Candace Pert, who discovered the endorphins and enkephalins, the molecules that the brain makes when it thinks. She gave you the molecules that are the mind-body connection, because there are receptor sites for these neurotransmitters on every cell in the body, and on every immune system cell in the body. So as Deepak Chopra says, we have a thinking immune system that eavesdrops on our thoughts. So think about it. You and I are going along, and we're in this so-called, pandemic thing. Not once have I ever been afraid of this virus. My mother, age 94, not once has she ever been afraid of this virus. And because we know that the fear itself will plummet your immune system, and you will be susceptible to everything. I had a roommate in college during the Hong Kong flu, which, by the way, the Hong Kong flu really was a pandemic, and it killed lots and lots of people, more than this. But she'd come back to the dorm every day. I've been exposed to the Hong Kong flu. I've been exposed. She literally was so afraid that, of course, she came down with it. I never did because I didn't read the news and I wasn't worried about it. And it's almost like, I think increasingly, and you must see it, I see it, we're living in two different worlds. There's the fear world, the masked world, the social distancing world, and then my world. And you can kind of pick which one would you like to be in. I mean, one of my friends just shocked me by changing her profile picture on Facebook to a picture of her with a mask. What's that about? What you want to show solidarity with the fear factor? Okay. I guess we won't be seeing each other for a while.
And if they only understood that just because you wear a mask doesn't mean someone else isn't going to get sick. Like, you can't control how their body reacts and what they do, what they eat, if they sleep, if they have chemicals, you can't. So yeah, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. We already know. We already know, and everybody who listens to you and listens to me at some point knows. And if you want to know more information, ask one of us. If you need, get on Dr. Northrup's list, be on her Facebook page for her free videos, and then definitely sign up right now at drnorthrup.com for this Take Your Power Back. It's a women's roadmap to optimal health and wellness. And again, men, if you're called to it, please do it. We're not going to put it out there as for all men and women. It's just the right ones, the ones who know that they need to be involved, whether it be for you or for someone else. Because a man might want to listen to this with the ears and the eyes and the point of view of a woman that they love, who they want to support, who is maybe off in the bushes here, as Abraham would say, off in the bushes in fear, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Great. Good. So take your power back, everybody. Go to drnorthrup.com. Make sure it's June 17th is when it starts. June 22nd is when it ends. You have to sign up before the 22nd to get the free course. So go to drnorthrup.com right now, sign up, get the course. Now, how is it? Do they access to a page, or in case I sign up on the 22nd and I'm wondering, can I watch it on the 23rd and 4th if I've signed up?
Yes. What'll happen? You sign up and then it'll be sent to you. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Yeah. So everybody make sure that if it's June 22nd at the last hour, don't let that stop you. Go to drnorthrup.com and sign up for the Take Your Power Back, a women's roadmap to optimal health and wellness. Of course, as always, I love talking to you and would continue to talk to you about any of these subjects forever and ever, just to continue to spread the word of it, guys. I agree with you. It's a whole different world. And if you don't like the world that you're in, if you are afraid and you're tired of being afraid and you feel like a puppet and you feel like you are trapped at all, take the course and become untrapped. Take your power back and learn how to trust yourself, because as we're both saying, there's no better expert than a combination of good information and your own intuition.
Right. So, exactly.
Thank you, Dr. Northrup, for coming back.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.